Vincent Pizziconi. And I'm going to read a very short biography because this stuff is very complicated too. Vin is an associate professor in the Harrington Department of Bioengineering at ASU's Ira A. Fulton School of Engineering. Current research in his group focuses on the development of molecular, cellular, and tissue strategies to develop bioresponsive and biomimetic materials for diagnostic and medical devices and engineered cell and tissue systems. The work involves elucidating nanoscale properties of soft biological materials and studying cellular molecular recognition responses in selected agents, environments, and biomodified sensor surfaces. That's a mouthful. He'll explain a little bit. Many amazing collaborative projects are underway in engineering tissue, in harvesting light from antenobacteria, and a whole long list I couldn't read to you. Vin has a BS from the University of Lowell and an MSc and PhD from ASU. Vin Pizziconi, our bioengineer on the team.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Martin. It's a pleasure to be here. And I hope I can convey a story in a very short time. We're going to go in and out of some YouTube videos that I've brought in to bring you the reality of what we're doing. But I was asked to talk about bioengineering and what bioengineers do and how the engineers fit into medicine and biology. And bioengineering is a fairly new field, but it's been around, actually goes way back, BC, but the real modern bioengineering occurred about 50 years ago. And I want to tell you about some of the incredible advances and unbelievable frontiers that bioengineers are embarking on right now, particularly as we try to better understand and keying off of all the science that's feeding into the better understanding of this called complex adaptive system. And I would argue that it may be the ultimate engineered system. And so, as Chuck Kozilek said, that there's fact and fiction, I'm going to argue that fiction is as important as fact if it plays in different ways. And so I was also asked to start and talk about a journey. We all have journeys. We're sitting in the seats where these young people are now. And the Arizona Science Center is the catalyst to inspire our next generation of leaders. And so I'm going to tell you about my journey and my reality, and that's me about the age of these young people right now. And I'm going to tell you about how fact can impact somebody and how they think and what they may want to do. And then fiction sometimes fuels you to a point where you believe in things that don't exist. They're actually dreams right now. So we could just play that first tape on the impact of technology and at a time when you know, the U.S. was in a certain war race in the world with Russia. And we got surprised by the technology that never existed before. So we could just play that tape at the beginning.
20th century life is the whir of your
all the way back to the beginning.
It's a report from man's farthest frontier. Radio signal transmitted.
This is the technology that, if you go and play it, this is the sound of a radio wave from the first artificial satellite that you could see in an October night in 1957. I was 10 years old, my brother and I, a cold October night, and we were told that if we looked up in the sky, we'd see this little ball that was the man-made, engineered artificial satellite that transformed the world, electrified all the young minds about the possibilities. If we could cut that tape, that was the fact. Now, about a year later, if we can you advance it to the next slide? He's going to advance. We have to cut in and out of the thing. I'm going to tell you a little bit about fiction that played a big role. I won't be able to control it from here. Can you control it up there? Oops. Okay. Oh. Okay, yeah, Brave New World. For those in the audience that know Aldous Huxley and predicting the Brave New World, this was kind of an electrifying vision of the future. Some of it pretty controversial. It was the utopian society, a limited population, plenty of resources, and that natural reproduction wasn't necessarily going to be the way that we could create humans in these sort of incubator kinds of environments, creating living tissue, which is leading to where bioengineers are right now. So that was one thing that riveted the population at the time. Another one was a voyage. My voyage actually came through this voyage. This is, if we play the tape, this was a fictional story, a science fiction, on actually traveling through the human body. The plot was that the U.S. and Russia were in this race for technology, and miniaturization was the technology, and we had this defector spy that we got a hold of. We had to save this guy because he knew how to miniaturize for permanently, and so they devised this miniaturization, a voyage into the body with 4 scientists to take the clot out of this person's brain because he had all the knowledge about how to miniaturize. And so without going too far into this story, I just wanted to go a little bit to show that what fiction does. So this is exploring the human body in a little spaceship that was immersed, like a little submarine, that traveled through this complex physiologic system at the micro nanoscale. And for the first time, we got in a 3D way what complex structures we are. And how does this all work? And then how does that lead to, how did that system get assembled? And we assemble these every and continuously. We've got now 7 billion roughly humans that are manufactured that way. So we could cut that slide. That was a little bit of fiction between Brave New World and Fantastic Voyage. It set the thing about, you know, what could we do if we better understood how biological systems work? So if we could advance to the next slide. There's a little bit of a, okay, keep going. There's a little bit of a delay here. This set the stage of bioengineering in the 50s and 60s. And so I'd like to talk about the evolution of a revolution. And this is just showing one technology that was my journey. It was a development of an artificial organ. That's my background, developing 3D artificial organs. And so if you go from your left to right, 1940 was the first artificial kidney designed by Willem Kalf for humans. The first one ever. Never done before. It was like Sputnik. Never done before. And that technology, your kidneys are about the size of your fist and they filter your blood. That thing's about as big as a refrigerator. But the idea was set. It was the first demonstration of artificial organ. And then engineering goes through these iterations of new technology, new ideas, refinements. And you can see from left to right, it went from that big refrigerator, it's called the rotating artificial kidney, to what's called the keel dialyzer in the 1950s, to the hollow fiber dialyzers that are used now in all humans for blood purification. And then I'm going to talk about where the future is. We're going to go into where we're developing organs now in a very different technology. And so you can see on the bottom is access to the blood system, but the bottom right is the technology you've all heard about. It's called 3D printing, but it actually started in 1980. And now 3D printing is used across the world in different things, but in bioengineering, in medicine, it plays a special role. So I'm going to show you a little bit about what that future looks like. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about where bioengineering is now. These are the technologies that are existing now that are helping humans either diagnostically or through treatment, that are things that save people's lives every day. This is our current technology, but it's not what's happening in the next 10 or 20 years. It's going to transform into these technologies. Robotic surgery, lab on a chip, regenerative medicine, digital health, nanomedicine, synthetic biology. These are the way of the future. So I'm going to show a couple. So if you could play this tape really quickly, this is, if you go to that special spot that I asked you, this is the development of a 3D organ system, actually an artificial kidney that's being printed. And this is the beginning of what I would say is the new fantastic voyage. So this is Dr. Anthony Atala. He's a pediatric neurologist, nephrologist, kidney doctor, and he's literally talking on a TED Talk while this kidney is being printed backstage. If you could just play it.
We then are able to actually image those, do 360-degree rotation to actually analyze the kidney in its full volumetric characteristics, and we then are able to actually take this information and then scan this in a printing computerized form, so we go layer by layer through the organ, analyzing each layer as we go through the organ, and we then are able to send that information, as you see here, through the computer and actually the signed the organ for the patient. This actually shows the actual printer. And this actually shows that printing. In fact, we actually have the printer right here. So while we've been talking today, we've actually, you can actually see the printer back here in the backstage. That's actually the actual printer right now, and that's been printing this kidney structure that you see here. It takes about 7 hours to print the kidney, so this is about 3 hours into it now. And Dr. Kang's going to walk on stage right now, and we're actually going to show you one of these kidneys.
That's not the, what the final form will be, but that is where we are right now printing kidneys. So we can stop that tape, and I think I'm going to advance it to, because I'm out of time, but I'm just going to tell you a couple that I'd like you to just encourage you to go on YouTube or TED Talk to see some other breaking technology. So if I can go to the next slide. No, can you stop that and go to the next slide?
Here it is. You can actually see that kidney as it was printed earlier today.
That's happening now. Back 50 years ago, that was a dream. That was fiction. If you go to the next one, I'm just going to go and just, if you don't, oops, where'd that go? Hang on. Can we go back to that next slide? Okay. Well, there's one before that, reverse engineering the human brain. I won't show that. That was shown a year ago on 60 Minutes, where the first time ever, we have a human interface, a brain interface with a robotic arm. And that woman who was a high school teacher, that's now a quadriplegic, was the first human to drive a robotic arm with her thought. So I'm going to leave that with you. That's the reverse engineering the human brain. If you go to the next one, it's about digital health. You've probably seen people that are now talking about using cell phones for diagnostics. You can do all kinds of basically diagnostic tests of you from physiologic to molecular level. And so if we can go by that one, Ruth, if we can go by that one, if we can advance it. A little bit challenging to go in and out of this, but it's essentially Eric Topol. It's another person that's a futurist out there with now putting together digital health, where physicians are no longer necessarily have to diagnose you. You're able to use it through your wearable cell phone. And if we go to the next one, okay, we're way back. Okay. Digital health, okay. And this is what I just want to leave you with, is that the technology is moving fast. Devices are becoming smaller and smaller. We're now starting to understand how materials are put together from the nanoscale. And the big challenge now in the future is combining the biological systems at the nanoscale that are using all kinds of information in big data ways that we don't understand. And in a special case for humans, the cognitive side of how these systems, these complex systems, function. So the biocogno nano info, this is basically a video on the matrix. I don't think we're going to play it, but if you remember the story, they're building a human, 3D, using images and 3D printing. And so if we could cut that out, it would go right to the end. I just wanted to leave you with this last thought. Okay, Booth, if you could just go to that last slide. So the image on the left is a 3D printing of a whole house. All together, just they're doing that right now, they're printing houses. And so printing humans, maybe not that far-fetched. If we go to the very last slide, I just wanted to leave you with this thought, particularly for the young people in the audience, and that is, Sputnik inspired me and many other people. The question is, what will be your journey, what's your voyage, in the evolution of this bio-revolution? And there's one more thing, is basically it's truly a brave new world. Thank you very much.